You a cop?
No, but I've had dealings with cops before.
That's exactly what a cop would say.
How do you know?
Let me ask you this. You a f***ing cop?
No.
Convincing. A Scorsese classic, if ever there was one. Yeah, this week we are discussing Scorsese's 2006 movie, The Departed. 2006,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I think we would have been in high school, I think, when this came out, no?
Yeah. I was not ready for this one at that age. This one hit hard. This had a Godfather effect for me. It was a good one.
Yeah, it was definitely, forgive me, I'm continuing the running gag of me eating.
What is the dish of the day?
I'll give you a guess, or take a guess.
I'm going to say shepherd's pie.
You think I got time to make a shepherd's pie? What the hell is wrong with you? No, just a burger.
All right. Is it a Homeburg?
Yes.
Okay. Solid choice.
Home cooking.
Home cooked meal. Yeah, I figured this week for the I know we're almost a week early. I didn't want to do it, the day after St. Paddy's Day, or 2 days after St. Paddy's Day. Figured it would be an appropriate one to do The Departed, a very, very Irish movie from soundtrack to themes all the way through.
Absolutely.
Has one of the best Irish soundtracks I think I've ever heard in a movie.
No, I haven't listened to the soundtrack in a long time now, but
Pretty stellar. Good use of Badfinger also,
yes.
which Breaking Bad actually ends on that same exact song.
Oh, wait, it does?
Yeah.
I did not know that. As you can see, I've done my research again.
Yeah, actually I did no prep, but then I just rewatched this week.
All right.
And I'm drinking
Well,
for
let's
this one.
rip
I haven't drank for an episode in quite a bit, so
You,
in true Irish fashion.
you've been drinking during the episodes?
Oh, that's my point. I haven't. Man, you've been drinking for these
I mean, I could have been doing that the whole time.
the whole time? Sally Field and Doubtfire. The whole time.
Oh, yeah. The whole time. So, yeah, this is before we get into it, since we're celebrating St. Paddy's Day.
Celebratory. Yes.
I would just like to drop an old-fashioned recipe of my grandmother's.
You're going to drop an old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned recipe. Man, let me speak. I just wanted to drop my grandmother's recipe of Irish soda bread.
Ooh.
Which
We're getting the
always used to
recipe.
make. Always used to make around St. Patrick's Day. She was Irish.
And you're just giving it away to the masses.
So I do that every year and make a loaf or a few of Irish soda bread. And it's a very simple recipe. It is nothing more than buttermilk, salt, baking soda, baking powder, and hang on. What did I forget? I said buttermilk, right?
Man, that's the recipe for mustard gas. No, I'm just kidding.
Hang on. Still hang on. Hang with me here. Hang with me. Just don't freak out yet. Just give me a second.
Just
Holy
picture you going through
hell.
like endless file cabinets. Like
What is
like
wrong with you
documents on
people? Just
documents.
take a second. Stop talking.
Everybody just
Let-
calm the down. Calm down.
Let me
Just gotta keep our
let me
composure.
get through this. It won't take that long for me to figure this out. And okay.
And I'm the one that's been drinking.
Oh, here it is. Buttermilk, baking soda. Oh, and flour. Oh, how did I forget flour? Like the main freaking ingredient. Yeah. Flour. There's 5 ingredients. Flour, baking powder, salt, baking soda, and buttermilk. That's it.
All that for that.
Hey, man. All right. I ain't giving you a loaf this year.
That's fair. I don't deserve it.
See, yeah. You see what happens.
See around and find out.
But yes, I just want to throw that in there. Anyway, okay.
No, yeah. Let's dive in. We'll dive into The Departed.
Yes.
Great story. This for me is up there with The Godfather. I think it's one of Scorsese's best for sure.
I would agree, yes. And I think I've always had this like strange notion that, and it's nothing revolutionary here, that you tend to enjoy the things more that came out during your lifetime than things that were before it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, unless
So-
it's like a true classic.
well, I feel like would you say a lot of people would pick maybe like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull over The Departed?
I can think of people who would, but it's fitting that they would be from older age brackets.
Whereas I feel like I would be tend to pick The Departed, maybe only just because it had I got the experience, I got to live the experience of when it was released, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know I don't handicap the other movies for that. They're still good in their own right, but just in my own personal way, that is one of the things I always keep in mind, and it seems to be a phenomenon that can happen a lot.
Also, I think the edit for The Departed is stellar. It was just brought to my attention today, something that I had never caught before. But right as the introductory sequence ends with Flogging Molly cutting out, right as the music cuts out, there's a beautiful cut where you see Billy Costigan's relative answering the door, and she just says Billy right as the music cuts out. And it's this miraculous, hilarious cut that I have never caught before. In all the years I've been watching this movie, I never heard that.
I'm trying to think of the cut.
It's like right after the title card cuts out, bam, Billy.
Okay. All right. Fair.
And on the music side of things, in addition to the great soundtrack, this also has a really awesome score by Howard Shore. I mean, Howard Shore is famous for a number of different things, including Lord of the Rings. I mean, that alone. But he's also present in a lot of other material. He was just recently with Cronenberg's son for Crimes of the Future. You know, obviously in connection of Lord of the Rings, he also did the Hobbit series. With Scorsese, he did Hugo, a great number of things. And just an utterly phenomenal soundtrack, beyond the score. Great use of Dropkick Murphys over the title card with I'm Shipping Up to Boston. And also probably really notable, they used Rolling Stones and Give Me Shelter. Another great track. I mean, it goes on and on. There's a bunch of really good choices in this. Yeah, just good stuff. Yeah, the edit, I think it's an extremely well-refined edit. It uses the soundtrack, not even just the score, the soundtrack, like the use of like third-party musicians and bringing in that element. It uses that extremely well to the benefit of the edit. It's very snappy. It knows when to just jolt you and snap you into a scene from like this montage through like this epically perfectly toned, pitch perfect song to a montage, and then bam, you're in this like high octane scene.
Yeah. And I mean, it does have a good use of sound in general when it comes to movies.
Yeah. Especially Scorsese's team at 2006, they were top of their game.
Mm-hmm. Whatever, like I don't think what prompted this movie in the first place?
So interestingly enough, have you seen Black Mass with Johnny Depp and Edgerton?
Yeah. Let's pretend I did.
So that is based on and it's meant to be like as realistic as possible a retelling of the Whitey Bulger case.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more loosely based on a lot of the same case files. They pulled from a lot of different resources from The Departed and a lot of other case files, but like their primary source material were the Whitey Bulger files.
All right, okay.
So interestingly enough, they're both these movies are largely based on the same case and the same crimes and the same files.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But they're still very different movies.
Yeah.
Costello is a very different character than Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger was kind of just in the face of the police. He knew that they weren't ever going to catch him.
Mm-hmm.
Costello was kind of in the Departed is kind of more reserved, a little like not quite totally, but like a little more reserved and under the cuff and cloak and dagger. And this took home a number of awards. This actually Graham King holds the Best Motion Picture of the Year 2007. Mark Wahlberg was nominated for Best Performance in a Supporting Role. Marty got the Best Directing Award for 2007.
Yeah.
As well as Thelma Schumacher. She took home Best Achievement in Film Editing for 2007. So a number of Oscars there and a handful of nominations as well. This was also nominated for a Saturn Award for 2007. ACE, which is the American Cinema Editors. Thelma Schumacher took it home again for that society as well, under the Best Edited Feature Film for a Dramatic Feature. This was a nominee for the Argentinian Film Critics Association. A number of different awards, as well as the Boston Society of Film Critics. Obviously, for Boston, this did very well there. A number of BAFTAs, several Critics' Choice Awards, including nominations and wins. Michael Bauhaus took home the Golden Frog for the Camera Image Award. And only for the Golden Globes, though, only one win, but a ton of nominations. A lot of the same players, except Jack Nicholson and Leo got nominated for that with no wins. So Marty was the one who took home the award. He's a very talented guy. Martin Scorsese is definitely one of the best directors of our time. Obviously, we just had Killers of the Flower Moon out. If you haven't seen that yet, I highly encourage checking it out. It was a rough but awesome watch. He can do things from like Wolf of Wall Street, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas. He can do all different kinds of crimes. You know, it does not shy away from certain language that a lot of people would probably find offensive, and it certainly doesn't glamorize that kind of talk, you know, by any means.
Absolutely.
Marty was the one who took home the award. And Marty just has a phenomenal team all around. Michael Ballhaus, who he's worked with a number of times, Gangs of New York, Goodfellas, just to name a couple there. Those two have a great shorthand with one another. You know, you can tell in their work. And unfortunately, Michael Ballhaus actually passed away back in 2017. I was bummed that we lost him for sure. This took home Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay for William Monahan. Written by William Monahan, Alan Mack, and Felix Chong. William Monahan obviously getting the majority of the credit for... William Monahan claiming a lot of the credit there for actually formulating the screenplay. But he took home most of the awards on the writing side, for sure.
Yeah. Well, one thing I really like about this script, the story, you have really a dual protagonist going on here. I mean, I would argue you do. You can certainly argue you don't, but I'm going to argue that you do.
I see that argument. I see it more as a protagonist and antagonist being right in each other's faces the whole movie.
Yeah.
But I can totally see the argument.
I mean, not that like one isn't, you know, not that there isn't like a clear hero and villain character. I just feel like both Matt Damon's character and Leo DiCaprio's character are obviously the story revolves around them and their separate intertwined journeys that they go through in the police force.
Well, I always took it as like what you would perceive as, you see Costello's like kind of made to appear to be the villain of the story, but he's not. Mm-hmm. I see it as he's more of like the character that the story is revolving around, because he's the most you know, high ranking of all these crime syndicate types, and he's the one that, you know, these two particular characters with Costigan and Sullivan, they're the pivot point around Costello. But I think that, you know, Billy Costigan, Leo DiCaprio's character, is the protagonist, and Colin Sullivan is the antagonist because he's the mole within the police unit. He's the one that needs to be removed. That is ultimately Costigan's goal, is to destabilize Costello and get, you know, tear apart his organization. Yeah,
one mole going in to mole out the other.
And to ultimately do that, he needs to get his mole. Yeah. The last piece of that puzzle would be to remove his mole within the police unit.
Mm-hmm.
So the ultimate final backstop being the antagonist. That's how I viewed it. I mean, that's obviously open to interpretation, but
yeah.
There's so many good actors in this movie.
Yeah.
The cast is
definitely
unbelievably stacked.
I mean, this is an ensemble performance.
Also, people who weren't super famous at the time. Vera Farmiga wasn't hugely famous at the time. She had been around, but I mean, this was her first major blip on the radar.
Yeah, definitely. This is the first time I can recall hearing about her or seeing her.
Yeah, she was around for a good few years before this, but supporting role in a Best Picture winner of the year does tend to put one's career on the map. And she would actually be back to the Oscars a couple years later for Up in the Air. So her success only continued to rise on a high fly. But yeah, just all around. I mean, the other thing that I thought was really cool rewatching it this time around, I noticed the close collaboration of the two characters of Queenan and Costigan.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of cool because not terribly long before this, just a few years prior to this, Martin Sheen and he were a father-in-law, son-in-law dynamic in Catch Me If You Can.
Yes.
And I was like, how cool would it be to like revisit a dynamic like that as an actor, but like from a different angle?
From a different angle, yeah.
I was like, that's got to be cool.
Well, too, and no, I mean, you have all the big names and the actors in it. No one is phoning it in, no pun intended, because there's so many good phone bits in this movie. You know, tricks with the not like actual ways that the phone is incorporated into the story.
Like this was pre smartphones.
Yeah, and
like
this is pre-smartphone. They're still they have the flip phones. And
the pocket texting trick scene, like
yeah,
still,
the T9
like,
texting, which I still to this day can't truly do, and not that you need to.
At my peak, I could do it. I cannot do it anymore.
What do you mean at your peak you could do it? What are you talking about? I don't believe
peak
this.
flip phone years. T9 was where it was at.
For those of us who are maybe listening and don't know what the hell we're talking about, what is T9, Brian?
T9 was like the 10, 12 button system where you would type a number multiple times to get a letter out of it. So like for every number, there would be like 3 or so letters on that number. You'd have to press it 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2 to get that letter. So when texting first came out, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to write a 160 character message. It took some skill.
That was almost a rite of passage too. Like for some of us, like or not a rite of passage. That's not the right way to say it. Just if you could do it fast, like I remember being like, okay, who can text it faster? You know, who can get the message out quicker? That was always like wow, you text pretty quick.
Yeah. And there would be there's always like one in a group that can just text circles around everybody.
Oh yeah.
And in this case, it was Matt Damon.
But now, I mean, you can just go straight to the letter. You don't even need that anymore.
Yeah.
So
we're living in a new age now.
Yeah.
It's a whole different stratosphere than back in the day.
It's interesting when you think about stuff like that. That's something that's not quite old, but just how different certain little things were. You know, how things evolve and you don't kind of like realize it until you're past it and you get reminded of it. It's like, oh yeah, we did do that. And you look at it now, it's like, why did we put up with that? But we did.
Yeah. We also used to pay by text and minutes and all that.
Oh yeah, yep.
Whole different age.
Whole different.
But yeah, the character dynamic between Sullivan and William Costigan is such a genius, like on multiple levels. So it's like you not only have them pivoting around Costello and his crime syndicate, because you have William Costigan being a double agent for the police unit. You have Sullivan being a double agent for Costello within the police unit. So their arcs are kind of like in opposite directions. Like, and it has some interesting messages about, like, I don't want to say class, but it's there is something there. It's
say it. Yeah, go ahead, say it.
Trying to phrase it correctly.
Get controversial.
I don't ever get controversial. Have you not noticed?
God damn it, do it. God damn it, George, swear.
You really think I ought to swear? Now, yeah, so the character dynamics with them, I think that there's some interesting themes and messages that surround the upstanding police type being the one that's going through the crime underbelly and having to uplive this life of debauchery, and his whole life is a lie, and he's constantly under threat of death if he f***s up.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot that's interesting there. And then on the other side, you have this person who's working for the low-life criminal who's rising through society and getting all the accolades in the world and beating out everybody in his competition, but he's really a complete and total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Feeding all of the police information directly into the crime syndicate. Like, he's not the kind of person that should be getting accolades, but he's so good at lying that he's beating everybody out.
Yeah.
And I just there's so many great themes and messages between those two different particular stories that I think is one of the biggest reasons why this movie is as interesting as it is. But then, like, not only them centering around Costello, you also have this love triangle that they've totally by accident gotten in the middle of. It is almost unbelievable at times.
Yeah, it is
the pure coincidental nature of some of these things, but at the same time, it makes for such good storytelling that I don't care at all.
Yeah, by that point, you either shut the movie off.
You're either on this ride or you're not.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And then you have like all these like it. I will jump ahead a bit and say that the ending is perfect because it does sum up that just like everybody in this situation except for Dignam is basically a rat to somebody else. be it interdepartmental within the same system or not. Like, everybody but Dignam in this whole situation is a rat.
Yeah. Which one's Dignam?
Which is why I think that Mark Wahlberg's character.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, what's his name? Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin's character.
Yes.
He's dealing in interdepartmental back and forth. He has that great line where they're at the driving range, and he's talking about some people don't trust a man with a sweet clean record. I myself have a clean record. And also regarding Colin's character, there's a really interesting fan theory out there, which, you know, it's never directly stated one way or the other whether this is the intent, but it does seem to be nudged a little throughout little moments throughout the storyline that Colin Sullivan might be a closeted homosexual.
All right, okay.
And that really has no bearing on the story other than the fact that when Vera Farmiga reveals that she's pregnant, it's kind of implied that it might actually be Billy Costigan's child, not Colin Sullivan's. And there's a scene where it's mentioned that Colin couldn't quite perform sexually, so that sends to reinforce that. But it's also, it adds to the deceptive nature of the storyline, plays into those themes. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but it is an interesting theory to take a second look at, be like, all right, this might be the intent here. And also down that thread, there's a really funny moment in the scene where Madeline and Colin are discussing his inability to perform, and she's eating a banana in that scene. I thought that was really funny. The whole guys tend to make too big of a deal about it thing. But yeah, if that leads to any implication, I think it's meant to amp up the possibility to the audience that Madeline's child is in fact Billy Costigan's child.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Also, Anthony Anderson in this. Right around the same time, not too long after this, he was on Transformers and a few other things, but I think that this is one of his biggest roles that I can think of.
Transformers. Who's he in Transformers?
He's the dude screaming about the FBI. Grandmama!
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that tries to help Costigan make the arrest for Sullivan on the roof near the end.
Yes, okay.
There's also a really great sick wit to this movie. Moments like where Costello, towards the beginning, he drops to people that they were interrogating, and he looks down and he's like, "Oh, she fell funny," and his number one goes, "Francis, you really should see someone." A lot of really great jokes like that just kind of make you go, "Ugh," a little bit.
Yeah.
There's the part where Billy Costigan pistol whips Jimmy Baggs in the jaw and bops his fucking teeth out. And there's that whole like hilarious like beat that like pause. What are you doing? It's Jimmy Baggs. The other one was whenever Billy Costigan's getting jumped by the Italian mafia guys.
Yeah.
He starts bashing them with a coat hanger in the face, and they use a rubber coat hanger obviously on set, but just like the sick humor of that. It does make you laugh with how over the top, absurd, violent it is.
This is another movie that is quotable. Definitely
quotable as hell, dude. Almost every scene has like a decade spanning like impossibly perfect quote. Pretty much every scene has one. Especially almost every line out of Dignam's mouth.
Yeah,
I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy. Endlessly memed. I still see memes of like a lot of the time it's Dignam, but like
my theory on Fed. What's he say? My theory on Feds is treat them like mushrooms, feed them
like mushrooms, in the back. Feed them. Yep.
It almost. I mean, does this come off as a morality play to you? Now that I'm kind of thinking of it more, like there's almost like a theatrical quality to how it's made. I mean, you just watched it.
Yeah.
So, steer me back if I'm wrong here, but just kind of, there's a Shakespearean aspect to it, the way I'm thinking of it now.
Absolutely. The way that it deals with death and finality feels very Shakespearean.
Like this almost feels like, I mean, it's a note to Scorsese and his crew. This almost feels like something that could have been performed at the Globe Theater back in the day. Just, obviously you take out the cell phones and all that, you switch it to the times, but it does have that Shakespeare quality, I feel.
I would definitely agree. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was drawn from various Shakespearean plays for certain things because it would be fitting. It would make sense.
Yeah, you have, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, I mean, you got Caesar, you got Othello, you got Macbeth, Hamlet, definitely in there. Well, that's one thing too, I think is an interesting little scene. So Leo's character gets involved because of his cousin, right? Or that's like his in. That's how the cops, that's how they're going to.
Yeah, that's it. So after he becomes committed to being a sleeper agent, he uses his cousin as an in to start worming his way into
Costello's group.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I swear there's a scene, or maybe a couple scenes, it's never talked about much, but Costigan's father, right? Wasn't he like, did
so
they
he
mention
he rejected being brought in. So he worked as Costello put it, he worked at the airport. Like it was some negative thing, like he didn't meet his full potential.
Yeah.
But he was part of that world, but like never like in it, you know, like he was adjacent.
But he wasn't a cop either, was he? Or he was?
No, he was not a cop either.
Okay. I always think it's like, that's always an interesting thing to me of the characters, like how much of their familial life are you going to show, or we as the audience going to know? And with Matt Damon's character, essentially Costello acts as his father figure.
Yeah.
And for Costigan, for Leo DiCaprio's character, I'm pretty sure he's the only one, again, correct me if I'm wrong, in the movie that even has any mention or we get a glimpse into his family life, even just a little bit.
And I think that that's a token of him being the protagonist as well. Because
okay, all right, I wasn't trying to undermine.
I'm not trying
to
step on you either. I'm not trying to step on you either. I really do see a lot of ways that's proven.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
You rat.
But yeah. But yeah,
no,
go
I
ahead.
think that is another staple that he like. It's because you are seeing more into his world and into, you only get that little nugget of Sullivan's family life in that very beginning scene.
Yeah,
I just like and it's all like side information from Costello talking about his mother and how his father is no longer in the picture. You don't even get a context for how, but yeah, it's interesting. And even from that early time, Costello like fully takes care of this kid, and you get the sense that he's been doing this a number of times and has various agents within certain organizations, and that he's as the other rat inside the police agency is telling him towards the end of the movie, he's like, Costello was gonna sell us to the FBI, and he's using how I see it, like Costello was using all these people as bargaining chips. Which,
okay, so I'm gonna be a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Yeah, that
ending moment where the other guy comes out as a mole in the group.
Yeah.
Did that, you having seen it again, does that come out of nowhere? I mean, it does in the sense for the character, but are there hints dropped as to him having multiple informants?
Not so definitively, but you get the sense. It's like, well, if you can do this just a couple of times, why wouldn't he have done it like a bunch of times?
Because if I was to critique,
he has way more money than he needs.
If I was to critique, that would be the only thing I would be like, I feel like it could be alluded to a little bit better in the script.
And also,
if I had to critique something,
that same guy who shoots Leo in the head at the end. We do see him earlier in the movie.
Yeah. I'm not saying the character is definitely there, but the revelation that he is also working for Costello is the one part that I'm always like, maybe I need to go back and watch it again and see if you can pick up the ending.
It's definitely meant to be a revelation.
That is one thing that, and the reason why I would critique that and say it could be done a little bit better from my perspective, but who am I? I am just sitting here in my basement, finishing a burger. But when you're writing a story, I think people tend to get a little lost in wanting to pull the wool over the audience's eye or the reader's eyes. Like they want to dupe you, and it's like, I always try to like remind myself, we're not doing a magic trick, or we're not trying to, or rather I should say, we're not trying to dupe anyone with the stories. Our goal as writers, or our goal should be to, either just purely entertain, or I think educate, and also maybe even get into, sort of reveal that universal truth that exists, that real deep down level core that you can get at
Yeah.
with really good stories. So that's
And
why
in
I've
the case
always
of this particular movie, I think that the truth that it's getting at is that is about it's a lot of different themes about deception and that lies essentially get you nowhere and are ultimately for nothing in most cases.
No, I think that, and that's not me saying, I think that's what makes the movie so good, is that it does touch on that deeper level. It goes, it's peeling back the layers, if you will, of the onion. But yeah, that to me is like just the ending where the guy comes out and says, oh, he's going to sell us to the FBI. And Costello ends up being an FBI informant. He's a protected FBI informant as well.
Yeah, which makes sense as to why his organization has been allowed to survive as long as it has.
Oh, yeah. But the long drawn on point I'm getting at here is there's nothing wrong if you can guess the ending by reading the details before it happens in the beginning. Like there should be, you can make it tough. It doesn't have to be easy, but I've always felt that a reader, an audience should be able to get a good idea, should be able to piece the puzzle together. Anytime you put a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle, if you don't have all the pieces, you literally cannot finish the puzzle. So that's just a little tangent me there, saying
That being said, that shocking moment at the very end does come totally out of left field, and I don't think that you can see it coming, but it hits so hard out of left field. For me.
I mean,
I don't want to say it specifically because
because like you said, the character is around. He's not just someone we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
He has been there. So I'd have to maybe go back and watch again, see if you can pick out some of the pieces. So I'm thinking of, like you said, like this gets memed a lot.
So much.
Cranberry juice.
Cranberry juice. So many different shots of Costello.
I've had like meme-asia here. It's created a sense now where I only remember the meme and not the actual scene itself.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them that are just like it's tough to. I honestly don't remember where it sits in the movie itself, but off the top of my head. But that isn't though from what's the one with him and Adam? Anger Management, right? Is that the one with him? That one might actually be from Anger Management.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I know like what when you're talking about where he's got that weird grin and he's like just kind of nodding.
Actually, I think that one is from Anger Management.
God damn it! You ruined the whole thing.
You wrecked it. I was doing a thing and you wrecked it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because
no, yeah, you're right.
It is Jack Nicholson, but I'm not sure if that's from that or not. But
the other one that I always think of is like the cocaine flying through the air and Costello's just like looking crazed as hell. Think of my friend every time I think of that scene.
Because of the cocaine?
Just the general atmosphere.
Okay. What is it with Scorsese in general and like his work as a director, and particularly in this one? Because I think this got Best Picture for that year, I think.
Yeah, it did. And deservedly so. I mean,
yeah. Now that could be like a one where it's like, well, we should have given him one years ago, so let's give him it now type deal.
But in this case, I think it's fitting. I think it deserved it. It's such a gambit of so many different elements coming together that I think this one deserved it. The body, so to throw a little bit of a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen it at this point, you're still.
I mean, we've spoiled like the whole thing pretty much already. So
yeah, I will put a spoiler warning on this one. The queen body that they use that falls off the roof.
Yeah.
So I have a small inside. I do know how much those things cost.
What things?
And the prosthetic bodies that they use for those.
Oh, okay.
They roughly cost around $50,000 for stuff like that. So Drive-Away Dolls. Have you seen it yet?
Have I seen what now?
Drive-Away Dolls.
Drive-Away. No.
Then I won't bring that up.
No, bring it up. I'm fine with it. Bring it up.
There's a head. I won't say whose head, but there's a head in Drive-Away Dolls. That head costs $30,000.
Like, I mean, are they really worth that much? Like, are they that realistic?
Yes. They fooled people with it. like they're good enough that they will hold up like face to face. Like you could believe that it's real.
Really? I'll be the judge of that. Go buy one.
Bring it over here. I didn't get a good look at it. Scorsese, in my opinion, absolutely deserved the accolades for this one. It is expertly directed for sure. The cinematography is very solid all around. For how all over the place scene-wise Scorsese movies can get, that he has a lot of coverage in his movies. And
Yeah.
when you're moving that rapid of a pace to have such pitch perfect cinematography, I have to hand it to him every single time. It still blows me away because he actually manages to hit another tier every time. Like I thought I had seen the most his teams were capable of with Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And then it's just been time and time again. He keeps proving it. He is one of the greats for sure.
Did Schoonmaker edit this? Was that still her? Or because that's one I will say I've always enjoyed about his movies.
Yes, she did.
She did? Okay. Yes, Thelma Schoonmaker, or Schoonmaker, whichever. I've always said Schoonmaker, but maybe it's Schoonmaker. I've always loved, and I've said this before in previous episodes, how the cadence of an edit can really throw me off, and the timing and the pacing. I will say
This
that's
is one of those ones
thing.
post 90s that it still like it's harder to find movies post like 2000 that
Yeah.
have that kind of pitch perfect pacing, and I'd
Yeah.
say this is among them.
I will admit, I don't think there's a poorly edited Scorsese pick.
Yeah. Side topic, very left field, but have you ever seen the video Craigslist producers say?
No, I have not.
I will send it to you, but there's a moment in there. So it's one of the funniest production videos I've ever seen, like making fun of filmmaking process and everything.
Yeah.
There's a moment in there where they keep saying like the whole thing is like making fun of like those low level productions that like bring you in and like pay you nothing, treat you like and give you like say like it's all for experience and like you get
Oh,
no
God,
money out of
yeah.
it. It's just making fun of that whole process. But one of the bits that they throw out in it is like, I need Martin Scorsese, no pay. It makes me laugh every time. I will link Craigslist producers say in the about section of this video.
Okay. That I mean, that is true. I need Martin Scorsese. No pay.
No pay. No pay.
No pay.
What a video. One of the all time.
Okay.
Right up there with The Departed.
Right next to it.
Yeah. Top quality YouTube.
Well, and this is a good example of you don't necessarily need to be constantly blowing up to make a good movie. This definitely has its fair share of little bit of action.
I can't think of another cop movie that doesn't just like relentlessly blow things up.
Yeah. I mean, this wouldn't, like, I would not, if I was organizing my video store for rentals, I would probably put this more, I mean, it is a cop drama. So it's more of that Law and Order like esque vibe. This isn't necessarily an action movie.
It is, but it's more of a drama. Like it has those elements in it, but it's much more of a drama. It's a romance story amongst other things. It's it's largely a cloak and dagger deception story. Like it's all like deception and going behind each other's backs, that kind of I do find it interesting that Scorsese finds ways to make his career more and more diverse, and he hadn't really done like a hard cop drama like this. Can you think of another one?
I mean, it reminds me a little bit of, I will say, like, I'm trying to think what came before this chronological wise, but it does remind me a lot of Goodfellas.
Yeah, like most of his stuff is gang oriented, not from the side of the police. Like this he was doing like an actual cop.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time he deals in like the gang side of things, like their perspective.
Yeah.
That's his forte. Like Casino, and like you said, Goodfellas. Goodfellas is a stellar.
I mean, this is definitely a very, I go back to the Shakespeare sort of comparison I brought up. This is definitely very King Lear-ish.
It definitely has that tragedy aspect to it.
Yeah, because, I mean, you think about it, if the true hero, the hero of the story in Leo DiCaprio's character, is living a tough life deep undercover.
For years and years.
Yeah, and you can see it's taking a toll on him. In fact, that's how he ends up meeting Vera Farmiga's character. He needs to go to a shrink, essentially, because he just can't.
Yeah.
There's another thing I love how he delivers the line, "My hand does not shake."
Yeah, that's the one thing I learned when I was in prison. No, that's an actual line. I wasn't in prison.
No, I know. I know. I just like the way you said it. So it's interesting how, at the end, Matt Damon's character is trying to cover up everything that's happened to him. He's trying to see if he
even
can get
from
out.
a moral standpoint, like he's trying to make amends to Costigan by giving him the Medal of Merit, and he's trying to make good on certain things. And you can kind of see the wheels turning in his head, like he thinks in some way that's going to make up for the fact that he killed the man. Like,
yeah. And, I mean, covering up his crime essentially, but Mark Wahlberg sees right through it from the get-go.
Like, you get the sense that this, like, Dignam knew some shit was going down, and he just ducked. Like, as soon as he saw, like, it was all going sideways, and like after Queenan's death, like he starts to smell what's in the air, and he gets the hell out of there, watches from a third party perspective, and then makes his move to strike.
What a way to walk in the room too. He's like fully clothed in like almost like scrubs, booties on his feet.
Yeah, he's got the booty protectors on his shoes. Like, that's a man who knows how to cover his tracks.
Yeah, he takes the gun with him. I think he even has. I think he's got even got his hair in a net. No,
I see. I thought the same thing. So rewatching this time, I was like, okay, yeah, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't.
But he has a silent. He has a silenced pistol. He's got gloves on. He has a tracksuit that's tucked into the booties. Like, he's definitely well thought out.
Okay.
And he puts a beanie on.
That's what it is. He does.
And then I think that's what made me think. I think that's what made me think of it as well. But I made the same mistake. And I was like, I really thought he was wearing one.
It's amazing what the mind will do to you.
Yeah, over the years. I think that Martin Scorsese's The Departed is a stellar film. Like, it is absolutely one of his best. The cast is incredible. The story is incredible. It's one of those few times the Oscars got it right.
Yeah, which doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and fitting for St. Patrick's Day. I hope everybody goes out and enjoys safe and responsibly for the holiday.
Safe and responsibly.
Things that are not heard of in Pittsburgh.
No.
But yeah, enjoy. Let the little Shamrock Man come into your life and bring you gold.
Sounds so dirty when you say it like that. Bring the Shamrock Man into the...
bring the little Shamrock Man into your life. Oh, God. But I like revisiting notable Oscar flicks around the award season. I think it's a good way to kind of take a look back and get hyped up on some things. Maybe take a look at something that you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
We need Martin Scorsese. No pay.